रूपं सहजादं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं स्वावधूतं परिजनासाहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna, Shashwin, thank you for the wonderful Mangalacharan. We are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam today, second canto, chapter number 6, and then verse for today is 11 and 12. So we can recite the verse before. You can read the text 11, Shashwin, and Induleka Mataji can read 12.
Okay, Prabhuji. Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Thank you.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तम श्लोकेर्भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी अव्यक्तारससिन्धूनां भूतानां निधनस्य च उत्तरं विदितं पुंसो हृदयं मनसा पदम्। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna. Translation. The impersonal feature of the Lord is the abode of great oceans, and his belly is the resting place for the materially annihilated living entities. His heart is the abode of the subtle material bodies of living beings. Thus, it is known by the intelligent class of man. Hare Krishna. Anyone wants to read the purport?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I can try.
Sure, Mataji.
Okay. Purport. By Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. In the Bhagavad Gita 8.17 and 18, it is stated that according to human calculations, one day of Brahma is equal to 1,000 ages or 4 millennium, 4.3 million years. Each and the same period is calculated to be his night also. A Brahma lives for 100 such years and then dies. A Brahma who is generally a great devotee of the Lord attains liberation after such a downfall. The universe called the Brahmananda, or the round football-like domain controlled by a Brahma, is thus annihilated, and thus the inhabitants of a particular planet or of the whole universe are also annihilated. Avyakta mentioned here in this verse means the night of Brahma, that when partial annihilation takes place and the living entities of that particular Brahmananda up to the planets of Brahmaloka, along with the big oceans, etc., all repose in the belly of the Virata Purusha. At the end of a Brahma's night, the creation again takes place, and the living entities reserved within the belly of the Lord are let loose to play their respective parts as if being awakened from a deep slumber. Since the living entities are never destroyed, the annihilation of the material world does not annihilate the existence of the living entities. But until liberation is attained, one has to accept one material body after another again and again. The human life is meant for making a solution to this repeated change of bodies and thereby attaining a place in the spiritual sky where everything is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. In other words, the settled forms of the living entities take place in the heart of the Supreme Being, and such forms take tangible shape at the time of creation. So text 12. Dharmasya mama tubhyam cha kumaranam bhavasya cha vijnanasya cha sattvasya parasyatma parayanam. Translation. Also, the consciousness of the great personality is the abode of the religious principles. Mine, yours, and those of the four bachelors, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanat Kumara, and Sanandana. That consciousness is also the abode of truth and transcendental knowledge. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, you are
Hare
moved.
Krishna.
Hare
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, thank you. We are still waiting for Mataji to come and then take charge of this class. But Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandavat
Hare
pranam.
Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji. I'm just messaging Mataji what happened because she confirmed yesterday.
Okay.
Maybe she's having a challenge. There
she
she
has
has
just-
joined. She has just joined. Hare Krishna. I'm keeping my
Hare-
video and everything switched off because I'm cooking, so I don't want everything to move when I'm doing. But I'm listening. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare,
Dandavat pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, and Hare Krishna Mataji. I'm really sorry for being late. I'm having problems in joining on my laptop, so I've joined through my mobile. I'm going to keep trying my laptop again. So if anyone is reading the Mangalacharan and just verse 12, please. Then in that time, I'm just going to try joining on my laptop again.
Okay, Mataji. Okay, we are waiting. We have just read the verses and the purport, so we'll just wait for you, Mataji.
Okay, all right, okay. So I'm just going to try once more. If not, I'll just continue on my mobile. Prabhuji. Hare
Okay,
Krishna.
okay,
Just
Mataji.
give me a sec.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
And I still can't see my video, so I don't know. Okay, I'm just going to keep my video switched off because I think it's giving problems. So
Okay.
that's okay, Prabhuji.
Okay, okay, Mataji. Yes, yes, it's okay.
Okay. Okay, we'll try once more. Okay, I'm back. Okay, great.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, Hare Krishna. I'm really, really sorry for this delay. It's only because I was having problems with my laptop. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to join today on this very auspicious day and serve all of you. in talking about Srimad Bhagavatam and serving Srimad Bhagavatam as well. Thank you very much, Ashwin Prabhu, if you have read the Mangalacharan and the verse. So yesterday, I think Prabhuji did verse 11. So I was I'm only going to cover verse 12 today, which is a very short verse. Because verse 13 is a continuation of, so verses 13 to 16 is a continuation. So I didn't go there because I wasn't sure if I could cover all the verses. I'm just going to cover verse 12. And because it's a very short verse, I just thought, this being a very auspicious day, Shivratri, although the time has now ended. It started yesterday. It continued until a few hours earlier. But because it's Shivratri, I thought we'd speak a little bit about Lord Shiva, who's one of the greatest Vaishnavas, and to be able to speak about Lord Shiva and hear about Lord Shiva as we're speaking is also a blessing, because there can never be more blessing if if not from a great Vaishnav. That's what we understand from the Shastras over and over again, and from our gurus. So that is what we are going to do a little bit today. So just starting off with continuing from where Prabhuji left yesterday. So as we know, we are doing Canto 2, Chapter 6, and this chapter is called the Purusha Shifta Confirmed, or this is where the cosmic manifestation of the Purusha avatar is talked about. So we understand from the previous verses. So in the first cantos, we have seen that there are descriptions of, in brief, there are descriptions of the various incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Very, very brief description, along with the 6 questions from the sages. But it is from Canto 2 we start getting deep and deeper into the knowledge. And so Canto 2 starts with the creation of the material world, and with our creation, because that is what we need to know, who we are. Where do we come from? That is our coordinates. We need to know where we exist, where we are, where are we in this whole cosmic, situation, creation, where are we? So we start understanding who we are, what is our relation to the Lord, who is the Lord. And we see the Virat Roop of the Lord being described over here. And as we go further into the later cantos, we see more and more avatars of the Lord being talked about, described, as are their devotees, until it reaches the ultimate, where we see the Lord himself being described in Canto 10. So it's a very, very, although sometimes we see that the events in Srimad Bhagavatam is not always chronologically in order, but there is a very, very linear progression in terms of logistically taking us through the creation, through the various devotees, the various incarnations of the Lord, and then finally reaching the Lord himself and talking about him. So similarly, in chapter 1, we have started. We've heard a bit about the Virat Roop. We see how Narad Muni asks questions to Lord Brahma, and then we come to chapter 2. Now in chapter 2, the first 1 to 10, verses 1 to 10 talks about, and we have seen that it talks about the Lord himself, the Virat Roop of the Lord, you know, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the tongue, the various parts of the body of the Lord, and how that can be related to the various things in the material world, drawing our attention to the fact over and over again that the universe was created out of the various parts of the various body parts of the Lord. So nothing really exists beyond the Lord. Everything is within the Lord, and everything is created from the Lord. So the first 10 verses talks about the various parts of the body of the Lord. And then from verse 11, we see how we are being talked about where the various things of various material things exist, where they are housed, where their abode is. Okay, so today we talk about where the consciousness is. And if I bring up the verse again, sorry, if I just bring up the verse on my mobile to read. I usually have that ready. Everything just gone a bit awry today because of the problems. So we are being told about so if I read the verse again, we are told that the consciousness of the great personality is the abode of the religious principles, mine, yours, and those of the four bachelors, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanat Kumara, and Sanandana. That consciousness is also the abode of truth and transcendental knowledge. So just my prayers to my group. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama. Yeah. So we are told that the consciousness is the abode of the religious principles. So the consciousness of the Virat Roop is the house of the religious principles. The very first word that comes to prominence is the word consciousness. And why is that mentioned over here? Now, this is to draw our attention to the fact that how merciful the Lord has been to us in giving us a human form. Because right from the beginning, we have heard that the difference between any other living entity and us is, you know, our consciousness, because we are able to think, we are able to understand, we are able to, if we want, we have our own free will, and if need be, if you know, we can think and we can understand what the real purpose of our life, of our human life is. Whereas if you take any other living entity, you know, whether it's the animals, the trees, or the aquatics, an insect, we all have the similarity of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That is something that is the birthright and what automatically happens for all living entities. But additionally, the human beings are given the consciousness. And with this consciousness, we are able to understand what our position is in this material world. So immediately in the verse, right at the beginning, we are drawn attention to the fact that it is the consciousness. And what does it house? it is the abode or the house of the religious principles, the greatest truth of everything. So the consciousness does not hold knowledge about mundane matters about the world, about the material world, about sense gratification, how we can enjoy, how we can gather wealth, how we can just live life happily in this material world. No, the consciousness is there for a definitive purpose. It is to give us the religious principles. And what is the religious principles? The last line says the religious principle is the absolute truth, and it is transcendental knowledge. And that is what we are being told. That is why we have been given the consciousness. And while saying that, we are also related. We are in the same sentence. We are said it's the religious principles. It is the consciousness that houses the religious principles of you, of me. So Lord Brahma is saying of you to Narad Muni, and saying that it's the religious principles that is in me, and it is also in the four Kumaras. Now we know from the Shastra that the four Kumaras, who are also sons of Lord Brahma, they were impersonalists. But then when they went to Vaikuntha and they met Lord Narayan, simply by smelling the tulsi leaves on the Lord's feet, they became pure devotees. This consciousness, and in the Bhagavad Gita as well, we have seen the Lord describe that, yes, I can be recognized in three forms. In the Brahman group, in my effulgence, that's the impersonalist, where my rays, my effulgence, and then in my Paramatma form, and then highest in my Bhagavan form. So the Lord has given us the opportunity to recognize him in various ways. But some people recognize him in the impersonal form. Others, they go up to the Paramatma form, whereas the others are able to have that very, very personal connection with the Lord. So by mentioning the Sanat Kumaras, we are being drawn attention to the fact that, it doesn't matter to which form of the Lord you attach to. If you are a pure devotee, the Lord will guide you with the help of your consciousness. The Lord will guide you to become a pure devotee and connect with the Lord in his Bhagavan, or the most personal form. So even if you start from the impersonal form, you will still be able to go up to the personal form. Again, how? By utilizing your consciousness in the right way. Because we have been told again in the Bhagavad Gita that if one reaches the Brahman state, there is always the chance of falling down. Because that is the stage where, you become one becomes one with the Lord, or with his effulgence. So there is no activity as such. And as jivas, we are part and parcel of the Lord. And what does the Lord want to do? The Lord created the entire creation only because he wanted to have this interaction with us. And being a part of that Satchitananda soul of the Supreme Lord, we also have the similar qualities. So our constitutional position is to interact with others. And our main constitutional position is to interact with the Lord. Jive Swarupa Krishna Nityadas. So the main purpose of the soul, of an individual soul, is to serve the Lord. If we are unable to do that, there is always the chance of us falling down from any position, any spiritual position. So there is so by specifically mentioning the Sanat Kumaras and not any other devotees in this verse, we are again being drawn attention to the fact that yes, you can use your consciousness in any way, but at least connect to the Lord. Connect to the Lord in some way, even if it's the impersonal form. But then once you reach the impersonal form, take the right route. Take the right route, just like the Sanat Kumaras, and then become a devotee of the Lord, rather than falling down back to the material world by taking the wrong route. So in this verse, again, we are being told of how to connect with the Lord, how the Virat root, whereas in verses 1 to 10, it talks about the various parts of the Virat root. From verse 11, it actually mentions about what things are housed in which part of the Virat root. And so you will find words like houses or abode, as is done in this verse. It's a very, very short verse, but I just wanted to finish discussion on this verse by drawing attention to the purport of yesterday's verse. And if we go back to the purport of verse 11, we see there's a line that says, oh, I think it's my internet that's playing up today. So in the purport of verse 11, Prabhupada says again that the human life is meant for making a solution to this repeated change of bodies and thereby attaining a place in the spiritual sky where everything is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. So after telling us which part of the Virat Roop, what is related, where we are, what comes from which part of the Virat Roop, in the purport, Prabhupada doesn't forget to mention once again that the human life is meant for making a solution to this repeated change of bodies, to this repeated birth and death. So why are we being told about the Virat Roop? It's an imaginary, it's a temporary form of the Lord. We've been told about that right at the outset. It is a temporary form. It is not the original form of the Lord. The original form of the Lord is the two-handed Lord. So why are we talked about this in various ways? A, as we have understood before, for us to relate to the Lord in a better way, because we have limited intelligence, so we are not able to understand the Lord as he is. So the Virat Roop is one way of making us understand how we are related to the Lord and how everything comes from the Lord and everything is within the Lord, and how nothing and absolutely nothing, whether it's living objects, non-living objects, how nothing is beyond the Lord. Everything is within and comes from the Lord. So that is why we are being given this temporary Virat Roop in so much details in the Bhagavatam. But in doing so, Prabhupada doesn't forget mentioning in the purports over and over again that we are doing this. We are helping you to relate, the jivas, or we are helping you to understand your position in this material world and how you're related to the Lord. But do not forget the main thing. The only purpose in the Bhagavatam, the Shastras wanting to tell us this information is so that we understand that we must stop repeat these repeated births and deaths over and over and over again, and we must strive to put an end to this, and we must strive to go back to Godhead. So Prabhupada mentions that in the purport of verse 11, what we yesterday again, and he follows this up with the last sentence of the purport, saying, in other words, the subtle forms of the living entities take place in the heart of the Supreme Being, and such forms take tangible shape at the time of creation. So he finishes the purport, linking it to verse 12. He talks about the subtle forms, the subtle body, and consciousness being one of the subtle forms of, it's not the gross body. So consciousness, as we read in verse 12, is one of the subtle forms. And we are being told that the subtle forms of living entities takes place in the heart of the Supreme Being. So that consciousness forms in the heart of the Supreme Being. So we come directly from the heart of the Supreme Being, and such forms take tangible shape at the time of creation. What does that mean? That subtle form take tangible shape. What does tangible shape mean? Something we can hold, something that's tangible, or in other words, the gross body. So we can touch our gross body. So first, that subtle form is created in the Lord, and based on what type of consciousness we have, if we have the consciousness of an animal, we will be getting the tangible or the gross body of an animal. If that is of a tree, we'll get that body. If we have the consciousness of a human being, then the tangible form given to us by the Lord will be that of a human being. And with that tangible form of a human being, we must utilize our consciousness to guide us back to Godhead, to connect to Lord, so that we can go back to Godhead and not let it go astray, not use such a valuable thing being given to us as that of consciousness and intelligence, not wasted on just sense gratification that is just going to imprison us more and more in this material world. So this is the main idea that is being given in verse 12. Obviously, when we go from verse 13 to 16, we would see more about how the Viratri houses so many other forms, so many other things, of our body, and how we can relate and how we can connect to the Lord in a better way. So I'll just pause over here a bit, just to check if there are any corrections, any reflections, any questions. On verse 12.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Kindly accept my humble obeisances, O good Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Just thinking of the Sarat Kumar, the four Kumaras. So when they appeared from Lord Brahma's body, they were like impersonal. They didn't believe in the Supreme Lord, and but they wanted to go to Vaikuntha to see Lord Vishnu. So they go through 6 gates without any problem. Then when they reach the 7 gates there, then we just stop them, and we know about the curses and all. But what made them change their mind? What made them become like devotees, actually, like Vaishnavas, is after they have cursed. That was the Leela of the Lord, because he wanted to have this Virya Ras Jaya and Vijay. That's why this Leela takes place. But these four Kumaras, when the Lord appeared, first they look at the Lord's feet, and they saw the tulsi leaves, and they get the aroma of the tulsi leaves. That changed their mind. So we should know the position of Tulsi Maharani also.
Yeah,
she has a exalted position, right? So whoever gets the opportunity, we must take shelter of Tulsi Maharani. She will definitely take us to Krishna. Hare
Absolutely.
Krishna. Just wanted to share this with you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you very much. Yes, just by smelling the tulsi leaves of the Lord's feet, they were able to change from being impersonalists to great devotees, as we discussed. So thank you very much again, Mataji, for reminding that to us. So if it is okay, shall we talk a little bit about Lord Shiva now?
Yes, Mataji, I thought
I
it would
think
be
it's a
nice.
good
No?
idea. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And thank you very much. So again, it was Shivratri today, just finished a few hours ago, and again talking about Lord Shiva, because it's always nice to talk about a great devotee, and we know that Lord Shiva is one of the greatest devotees of the Lord, and we often now it's Shiv Tattva is very, very complex. So again, if there are any mistakes that I make, please do correct me. We only have about 20 minutes or so, so we will only be able to discuss a little bit. But just an opportunity to glorify Lord Shiva and why he's so much of a favorite to Krishna devotees as well. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we see how there's a verse, and I think I've written the place. Yes, in Madhya Leela 20.310, Lord Brahma, and it's a quote from Chaitanya Charitamrita, but it's the actual quote is from Brahma Samhita. So this is being told by Lord Brahma, where he talks about the Shiram Yatadati Vikara, and he talks about how he worships Govindam Adipurusham. So in this verse, Lord Brahma gives the analogy of the milk and the curd, and this is something which we have heard in many of the Krishna classes as well, where when wanting to describe Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna and their relationship, we have been told about how it is just like the difference between the milk and the curd. So if the milk is the original, the Lord, and then if you just with a tiny bit of a drop of lemon or lime, and it turns into a curd. So if we ask the question, is Lord Shiva the Lord? Is he the Lord? Is he Bhagavan? Some people say yes. There is a Lord, there is a Sadashiva who is also Vishnu Tattva. So some people would say yes. Some people would say no. We have seen in the 10 offenses, one of the offenses is to actually think of Lord Shiva as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So some say yes, he's the Lord, and some say he's not the Lord. Shastras sometimes to talk about him as being the supreme, and then sometimes we are told that he really isn't. So what is he? What is the position of Lord Shiva? And there we go back to this analogy of the milk and the curd. So in the material world, because everything is two-dimensional, we really cannot understand what happens in the spiritual world. So in this material world, if we think of milk and curd, they come from the same thing, but once the milk becomes curd, there is no way of changing that back to the milk. So which means, you know, if you are trying to relate that, yes, if Lord Krishna is the milk, and then, you know, he changes to the curd so that he's able to relate, or, you know, he can interact in this material world, and so he becomes Lord Shiva, that automatically suggests that, you know, if Lord Krishna becomes Lord Shiva, so that he can, you know, interact in this material world, then where is Lord Krishna? Then does Lord Krishna cease to exist? Now we understand, no, that is not the case. So we also understand that, you know, in the spiritual world, there's Lord Krishna, but he has various expansions, just like we were talking about, you know, in the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are talking about in Canto 2, we have been looking into the Purusha avatars, the Purusha, you know, and we have, we discussed in the previous class about, you know, how the first Purusha avatar, how Lord starts creating the material world, material creation, by his first expansion in the Purusha avatar as the Karnadaksha Vishnu. Although Karnadaksha Vishnu does not come in contact with the material world at all, but the first Purusha was created for the purpose of creating the material world, and Karnadaksha Vishnu starts creating, you know, uses other ways of creating, and, you know, assigns the task to Lord Brahma, and also uses Lord Shiva. So similarly, we understand that the Lord Krishna expands for the purpose of, for a specific purpose, for a specific task that can be given to Lord Shiva, and he expands in a way so that he's able to interact with the material world, and that is Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva is you know, so Krishna, or the Lord in his original form, he's above the three modes of material nature, but Lord Shiva can come in touch with the material nature, and that really is the only basic difference. So we are told that that really is the only difference, because, you know, Lord, otherwise Krishna and Lord Shiva, there really isn't much of a difference. Yes, there are some other differences which we'll come to know of, but the major way, in a major way, there is only this tiny bit of difference that, you know, Krishna expanded so that he can, you know, interact with the material world, and so the purpose of his expansion in as Lord Shiva was to do this, and that really is the only difference. So if we think of Lord Shiva to be independent and different to Lord Krishna, that actually becomes an offense, and it becomes an offense to both the Lords, because we cannot worship Lord Shiva independent to Lord Krishna. So this is something which we really need to internalize, because we see in so many, you know, especially in India, there's a fight between the Shaivites and the Vaishnavas, you know, talking about who's the greatest. And some say, you know, in Ramayana, Lord Ram was worshipping Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva is the greater, not realizing that, you know, the Lord teaches us to be humble, and one form of humility is always to respect the Vaishnavas. And, you know, we see even the Lord, when he comes in his various incarnations, one thing he does not fail to do is pay his obeisances to the Vaishnav, to the greatest Vaishnavas, whether it's Lord Ram to Lord Shiva, whether it's Lord Krishna to his Guru Sandipani Muni. So, or even to the great Vaishnavas like Bhishma, who the Lord praises and wants to glorify. So this is this is something which we really need to think right at the first instance, that we cannot really worship Lord Shiva independent of Lord Krishna, because that cannot happen. And if we try to do that, it's an offense not only to Lord Shiva, not only to Lord Krishna, but to both the lords, because there is so little difference between them. So in one way, Lord Shiva, he is the Lord, is the Lord, but in another way, he is not. So it's just that milk and curd thing. Now, Lord Nityanand, once he went to South India, and Lord Nityanand, we know, is Lord Balaram. And he went to South India and he saw the followers of Lord Shiva fighting with the followers of Lord Vishnu, and fighting really, really badly. Lord Nityanand went there and he started laughing. He really started laughing in between, there were two parties fighting, and he started laughing. And because he knew he's Lord Balaram, so he knows exactly what the relationship and what the position of Lord Shiva is, and how both, both Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna cannot be separated. Okay, there is a distinct, there are two distinct personalities, but again, they are so much interlinked. So in it, Lord Nityanand knew that, and he started laughing, and then he explains to them. So, so this is the first thing that we have to remember. The other thing we have to remember is that, if we, again, linking it to our Bhagavatam class, we are talking about creation, creating the material world. And now in this material world, we see that Lord Brahma creates right from the top, the best Jiva Tattva, and then there are gradations. So whether it's the Lord Brahma down to, the tiny jivas, there is a gradation in intellect, in knowledge, in everything. Or even if we just take our material world, we go to an office, we see that there are gradations. There's the CEO to the person who probably opens the gate. And each person has a specific duty. Similarly, in the spiritual world, we are known that, the Lord creates a gradation and gives, and his expansions are given definite tasks to perform, whether it's in the spiritual world or whether it is in the material world, as we see, through his various incarnations, or as he gives to Lord Shiva as well. So we need to understand that because of these, just because there's a gradation, that does not make them, these expansions of the Lord any lesser than the Lord. They are still expansions of the Lord. Yes, they may have, they are not they are not Lord Krishna, who, and everything and everybody comes from Lord Krishna. Even Lord Balaram is an expansion of Lord Krishna, but they are no less. They are, they must be, respected as we do to the Lord. And as the Lord repeatedly says that, one who does not have respect for my devotee, I mean, he says Aham Bhakta Paradin when he talks about, Lord King Ambarish to Devasa Muni, but he reiterates the fact that, whichever form he is in, whatever expansions he comes in, he needs to be respected in the same way, and nobody should be disrespected. Why? Because they are all again connected to the Lord. And that is what we go back to over and over again, whether we talk about another expansion, whether we talk about an incarnation, whether we read the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, we see the same message being given to us over and over again, that, there is that connection to the Lord. Now, very quickly, so we've just heard about Vishnu Tattva. So the Lord has expansions where he expands as himself in a Swarupa, in Swansha. So, you know, whether it's Narayan, in this Narayana Vishnu form. So that's Vishnu Tattva. And I'm saying this, I'm just looking at the time. Now, and then we come to us. So we are also part of that Sat Chit Ananda form of the Lord, but the only Sat Chit Ananda part in us is our soul. That is the only Sat Chit Ananda, and that is a tiny part of the Lord. Our gross body is very, very gross and material. And that is covered, and that's not spiritual at all. As we go up the higher, the higher planets, yes, as we go to the planet of, Lord Brahma, their bodies become more and more subtle. But they are still jivas, but their bodies are more subtle. So we have Vishnu Tattva, we have Jiv Tattva, who are us. Okay, we have material bodies, we are in this material world. And so Shiv Tattva is something completely different, somewhere in the middle. So Lord Shiva is not completely material, because Lord Shiva, there is, as we discussed, there's only that tiny bit of difference between the Lord and Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva cannot be completely material, but he is so merciful that he has allowed himself to come in touch with the material world, so that he can serve the Lord in the proper way. So he is his spiritual being, but he can also come in touch with the material world. So Lord Shiva's tattva is completely different, and his is the Shiv tattva. There is another tattva. Can anyone tell me what is the other tattva? So we have Vishnu tattva, we have Jiv tattva, we have Shiv tattva, but we are missing another tattva.
The Sri and the Sri Tattva, and then we have the Kumara, the four Kumaras Tattva.
Yes,
Kumar.
yeah, the Shakti, yes, yeah, the Shakti, the fourth main one is, yes, the Kumara is there, but Shakti Tattva, and the main, the original Shakti is, as we know, is Radharani, and the direct expansions of Radharani being the Gopis of Vrindavan, the Lakshmis of Vaikuntha, and the queens of Dwarka. But Mother Durga, the material expansion, she is also Shakti. So she is also an expansion, but in a shadow form, as the external energy coming from Radha Tattva, coming from the Shakti Tattva, from Radharani, but not as the spiritual, but as the material, the external energy. Again, all going back to the Lord. All these energies, the Lord has unlimited energies. So all these tattvas are again all in the Lord, as we know. Yes, Prabhuji, also Guru Tattva. Thank you very much. Yes, but what we have to, and what we understand is that the external form, the external energy comes via Radharani, because Radharani is the original Shakti Tattva. But again, as a shadow of, as an expansion, we are told. So now we have Lord Shiva, who is who we have as the father in the in the material universe, and we have Mother Durga, who is the mother and the external energy in the material universe. So then when we talk about Lord Shiva and his role in this creation, again, we go back, we relate it to our discussion around creation. So in this material creation, when we talk about what is the major role, what is the main role of Lord Shiva, and we say that he is he's the one who annihilates. So Lord Brahma, so he is tasked with the secondary creation. The most difficult task is maintaining the creation. So the Lord incarnates as Lord Vishnu, and he maintains, the creation. And then when it comes to annihilate, that is what what Lord Shiva does. He starts his Tandav Nritya, and the creation is annihilated. And why is annihilation so important? Because because you cannot have a new creation unless the old creation is gone. So do we then associate Lord Shiva only with annihilation? And then we go back to what we have just talked about Mother Durga and Lord Shiva. So we say that Mother Durga is the mother of this material world. And through her, all the material things come into existence. Okay, so all the material objects we see, they come from Mother Durga. So who is the husband of Mother Durga? That is Lord Shiva. So we see that, when these 84,000 species are created in this material world through Mother Durga, it is Mother Durga, along with her husband, creating these 84,000 species. So when we say that, because, we see again in a mother is able to create only when a mother is held by a father as well. So when Mother Durga gives birth and creates these 84,000 species, different species in this material world, she is helped by her husband, who is Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva is able to do that because he has the ability to come in contact with the material energy, or the material, or Mother Durga. So we see that we usually associate Lord Shiva with annihilation, but he also has an equally important role in the secondary creation as well. Now, this is only a tiny, tiny part of talking about Lord Shiva. There's a whole big thing about, why he's called Shambhu, and, what are his root reforms, and that probably would take hours and hours to discuss. And as we mentioned, there is also a Sadashiva, who's also Vishnu Tattva. But in a very, 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 limited way, just want to, because we are talking about creation in our Srimad Bhagavatam class, I just also wanted to, and because it's Shivratri, I just also wanted to draw the attention to the fact that just as Lord Shiva is, yes, associated with annihilation, but we mustn't forget the fact that in the secondary creation, there is a hand of Lord Shiva as well. So we can understand just how important Lord Shiva is. And then I'll quickly end with, have you got, can you give me 2 more minutes? I'll probably go a bit overboard, over 6 o'clock. But I'll finish quickly with the fact that, yes, we know the Lord Krishna has unlimited energies, and out of those unlimited energies, there are 64 prominent ones. Now, how many energies do the jivas have? Does anyone know? The jivas, we have 50 of those energies, but only in a tiny, tiny percentage. The Lord has, the 50 energies that are given to the jivas, the Lord has it in absolute the optimum. but the jivas, especially, you know, in the human form, the jivas have only a tiny bit of those 50s. And even if we have those, you know, 50, you know, energies or opulences, rather, opulences, they are not there at the same time. If someone is very wealthy, they may not have the intelligence. If someone is very handsome or beautiful, they may not have the strength, so vice, or, you know, in this way. So we see that the Lord has 64 prominent opulences or energies in its full form. Now, the jivas are given a tiny bit of that, just like a drop in an ocean, in 50 of those. And then, does anyone know how many Narayan has? Narayan, Lord Narayan has 60 of those qualities, so 4 less than Lord Krishna. And that's a whole topic, etc., of how Lord, those 4 extra, very, very sweet topic about those 4 extra opulences that Lord Krishna has. Lord Shiva has 55 of those prominent opulences. Okay, maybe not is in as you know, a tiny percentage as the jivas have, but he has it, you know, the same 55 opulences in way more volume percentage than what the jivas are given, because he's so much closer to the Lord. So these 5 extra things that Lord Shiva has, which is extra from the Jiva Tattva, is what makes him so very special. And very, very quickly, I'll mention what these 5 are. And these 5 are, the first one is his ability. So let me just see, I think I've read. The first one is Sada Swarupa Sampradaha, or he doesn't change. Lord Shiva remains the same in his own Swarupa eternally. Okay, in his own identity. But look at us, we change our identity, don't we? You know, sometimes we're in this body, sometimes we're in that body. We change our identity all the time. We sometimes remember Krishna, sometimes we forget Krishna, but that doesn't happen with Lord Shiva. He has the ability to remain in his own identity eternally. Okay, Sada Swarupa Samprat. Again, this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says to Sanatana Goswami when talking about Lord Shiva. The second thing Mahaprabhu says to Sanatana Goswami is that Lord Shiva knows everything. He is Sarva Gyaha, or he knows the past, he knows the present, and he knows the future. Kal, or time, and place does not affect him as it affects the jivas. Okay, again, I'm going very, very quickly. The third quality is he is Nitya Mutanaha, or his body, Lord Shiva's body, is always new, he's always young. Have we ever seen a picture of Lord Shiva in a, you know, in gray hair or, you know, long beard, gray beard? No, we haven't. Just like Lord Krishna, who's eternally in his youth, Lord Shiva is also eternally young. His body is always new. He does not change. So we see how he is, again, so much related to Lord Krishna, so much similar, and yet, again, his similarities a bit to the jivas as well. So that's the third thing which he has extra than the jivas. The fourth thing is that he is Sachidananda Sandra Angaha, meaning his body is Sat Chit Ananda. His body is spiritual, same as that of the Lord. He is not made of gross material body. Okay, our souls are in the jivas, our souls are only Satchidananda, but our body is gross. Lord Shiva has a Satchidananda Angaha. Angaha means body. But how in the middle, Mahaprabhu included the word Satchidananda Sandra. Sandra means very, very deep, very, very, thick. So that Satchidananda is very, very thick in Lord Shiva, and that is what his body is made of. So we should see how we mustn't ever think of Lord Shiva as just being another material person, just because he's in touch with material nature. And the last thing is, which he has, the 55th thing, which is, the fifth thing more than the Jivas, is that Lord Shiva is Sarva Siddhi. Siddhi, meaning all knowledge, someone who has all knowledge, has acquired all knowledge. But Lord Shiva has all the yogic knowledge naturally. He knows all of them naturally. We see yogis, they do tapasya for ages and ages and ages, and then they become a siddhi, they become knowledgeable, whether it's an Ashtanga yogi or a Hatha yogi or any other yogi. But Lord Shiva has all of these yogic, he's a natural siddhi. So he has all the yogic knowledge naturally in him. So we see how important Lord Shiva is. So we understand that right in the beginning to conclude our session today, and if we link it to what we were talking about in the Bhagavatam about creation, we see that Lord Shiva has a hand not just in annihilation, but also in the material creation. We see that Lord Shiva is not very different to Lord Krishna. It's only the difference of a milk with a curd. Okay, and yes, Lord Shiva, there is, he's very similar to the Lord, but he's also different to the Lord. We also understand that we cannot really worship Lord Shiva independent of the Lord. Because he's a great devotee and because of his relationship with Lord Krishna. There is such a great link between the two of them. We also understand that being in touch with the material nature and being the husband of Mother Durga, so he is also close to the Jivas, whereas the Jivas have 50 of, so the Lord Krishna has unlimited opulences, unlimited energies, qualities. Of them, 64 are prominent. Narayana has 60 of those. The Jivas have 50 of those in tiny amount, but Lord Shiva has 55 of those. So these extra 5s are what we talked around right at the end. So the 5 things which tells us again why Lord Shiva is Satchidananda, he's a Sarva Siddhi, he's someone who knows about the past, present, and future, and he is he's always young, and last but not the least, his identity never ever changed. He's eternally the youthful Lord Shiva. So we end this session. I'm really, really sorry. It's 9 minutes past the hour. I'm sorry if I've made any mistake, but I couldn't resist talking a bit about Lord Shiva there. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk about Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord and Lord Shiva. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you so much for these wonderful insights and also your narration of Lord Shiva on this special occasion of Shivratri. Are there any questions, comments, Hare Krishna?
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna.
Mataji. Hare Krishna. Okay, Ajay Prabhu, you go ahead. You say it first.
Oh, just a quick one. My understanding is that Lord Shiva meditates on the first expansion, Balaram. If it's not already been
Sankarshana, rather than Balaram. So Lord Shiva's Ishta, Dave, is Sankarshan.
yeah. I mean, I came late, so I wasn't sure whether it was given or not. Okay.
Yes, that's what. Yes, thank you.
Yes, a little correction, if you don't mind.
Yes, Mataji,
Um,
definitely.
It's not 84,000 species, it's 8.4 million
8.4
species of
million,
life.
yes,
Yes.
Mataji.
So
It's
we have 900,000 aquatics and 2 million plants. Worms and reptiles were 1.1 million, birds 1 million, beasts 3 million, human form 400,000. In all, it's 8.4 million.
Yes, Mataji.
Thank you so much.
So much.
And,
Thank you, Krish. Thank you so much. I always get this wrong.
Yeah, don't worry. We all make mistakes. Don't worry. There is much more to say about Lord Shiva and the creation.
It's just so much more.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll stop here. Another time we will discuss about it. Thank you so much. Because you know the glance of Mahavishnu, the glance turns into Sadashiv because Lord Vishnu cannot impregnate Mother Durga, material world. So Lord Shiva's job is there. So that is when the glance, as soon as he opens his eyes, that glance turns into Sadashiv.
Yes, yes, that's right.
Also in Canto 4, I think, or 5, when the pastime of Indra stealing the horses or the sacrificial horses, there also I've read somewhere it says that as soon as Lord Vishnu puts his foot on the material world, he turns into Shiva. That also is there. I need to look where it is so that I can get the
Shiva, it's such a complex topic. I mean, there is no end to knowing about Lord Shiva. Really, and there are so many facets, so many aspects to finding out, you know, and because of its various forms of Lord Shiva as well, and each name of Lord Shiva, you know, has a deep meaning. Whether you call him Bholenath, that has a meaning. If you call him Bhutnath, that has a meaning because of his relationship with the Bhut and also the Jivas who are also Bhut. If you call him Ashutosh, there's a reason as to why he's called Ashutosh. If you talk about the Rudra forms, or why is he called Shambhu? So it's just, you know, unlimited. Where do you even start about Lord Shiva? But greatest of all, as we are told by Prabhupada over and over in his lecture, the only main thing to remember about Lord Shiva is that he's a great Vaishnava. And so we must always pay respect to Lord Shiva.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. To re-establish, reiterate the fact of Lord Shiva's position, and then his greatest Vaishnavana Meta Shambho. Thank you so much, Mataji. And most often, many of us Indians have confused identity, because many of us think Lord Shiva is the Supreme Lord, but we often get confused, and then that confusion causes disturbance also. So thanks for all this information. I request all the devotees to unmute and chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra once in glorification of Her Grace Panchali Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhavevascha patitanam bhavantu namo namaha. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय, श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय, पंचाली माता जी की जय. हरे कृष्ण.
I just forgot to mention today, because it's Shivratri, we mustn't also forget that this is the day when you say that Lord Shiva got married to Mother Parvati. So that's also Shivratri, yes. But again, Matajis and Prabhujis, if I've made any mistakes, please do correct me. Thank you.
No, Mataji, you know, also Shiva, he is one of the gopis, because there's a confusion.
Yes.
Who is the greatest devotee? The gopis or Lord Shiva? But she is Gopeshwar Mahadev. She is gopi. right?
He had to.
He was in
He
the,
could only enter Vraja as a gopi.
Yes.
Otherwise he
Yes.
couldn't. And
he was in
did.
the Raslila also, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
Hare
only
Krishna.
to
Thank
go.
you. Thank you.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Thank
Hare
you so
Krishna.
much. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.